Okay, so what sports do you coach?
Should I look over at you when you're asking me questions, or should I look at the camera the whole time?
You can look at me, it's fine.
Okay. What sports should I look at the camera when I'm asking? Or when I'm answering?
Yeah.
I should? Okay. Should I say my name? You don't have to.
Yeah, you
Okay. I can? Okay. I'm Coach Hall. I coach football and lacrosse here at Walker.
What is your opinion about concussions?
Well, my opinion of concussions is it's something that, maybe as recently as 10 years ago, we didn't completely understand. Concussions, they kind of have a bad reputation because if you get a concussion, a lot of people are quick to take that very seriously nowadays. Okay, but it used to be, you could suffer a concussion and they'd put you right back in the game. You know what I mean? And it'd be, oh, how many numbers am I holding up? How many fingers am I holding up? That would be the question. And if you could answer that question, then you don't have a concussion. You can go back in. Okay, so there's definitely a stigma around the word concussion. But really, it's scary what happens to a player, what happens to his brain, when a concussion occurs. It's a very scary thing. It's something to take very seriously. But fortunately, so much, athletic trainers, team doctors, modern science has come to a point where we understand it so much more. So we're able to help those so much more. We're so much better prepared to help those who suffer those concussions than we were as recently as 5 years ago.
Have any of your players had concussions?
Yeah, I tell you what, I had this kid. His name was Nathan. It was my second year at Walton. I've had several, but the one I remember the most is Nathan. My second year at Walton, we were playing Roswell in a lacrosse game, and he was hit, not by a lacrosse ball, but he was just hit in a clash that took place on the field, between players, because lacrosse is a very physical sport, and he literally lost consciousness. And I'd never seen that. I'd seen kids get their bell rung before, and I'd seen kids get hurt and they'd come off the field kind of dizzy. I've seen that happen several times. But the fact that he lost consciousness, and I went out there, and it was enough to where I would go out on the field with the trainer, and it was very scary to watch. And when he woke up, fortunately he came right to. He woke back up, but he literally didn't know where he was. He didn't know anything about that moment, and he went to the hospital and then fortunately went home that night. But he wasn't allowed to really sleep. He wasn't allowed to really do anything because the concussion was so severe, at first.
Do you know if he had any long-term effects of the concussion?
Well, the funny answer to that is with Nathan, you're never really sure what was because of concussion or what wasn't. But fortunately, I do know that he went off to college, and he's a college student now. And so, as far as long-term effects, I'm very happy to report that he's living a completely normal life. And then actually, he was able to return to. It was literally over a month that he was out. It was a long time. It may have been longer than that, but he was able to return to competition. That season. We got him in time for the playoffs, and he helped us a lot. But he did spend, for good reason, a long time out because of that concussion.
Okay, have you ever had a concussion?
And that's kind of what I was saying earlier in the interview. The way we understand concussions now, as opposed to the way we understood concussions in 1997, which was my freshman year of high school football, there's a big difference there. There's a lot of knowledge, again, like I said earlier, just in the last 5 or 10 years, our understanding of what a concussion has come so far. Back when I played, I'm absolutely certain I suffered at least one concussion, if not more, but I probably didn't know it at the time. I'll never forget my first day in full pads as a freshman. I was going up against a sophomore who was literally twice my size, if you could believe that. And I'm not twice my size now, but twice my size then. I was going up against a sophomore in a tackling circuit, and I was the ball carrier, and he came and tackled me. And there's the classic expression, "Get your bell rung." I literally could hear a bell. It was literally a ringing sound in my ears when I got up, and I was dizzy, wasn't sure where I was 100% there for a few minutes, you know, and the old coach is kind of like, hey, you okay? And I was dizzy, and then I kind of snapped out of it. You know, didn't have a great practice, obviously, after that, but it was enough to where I could go back in and keep playing. You know, I got to think that if something like that happened now in 2013, that there would have been more research done, further investigation from athletic trainers, maybe even team doctors, and you know, I've never been diagnosed with a concussion, but I'm absolutely certain I've had at least one. Yeah.
Okay, do you feel that football is safe?
Do I feel that football is safe? Football gets a bad rap because of because football has never been this popular. You know, football has never been so popular to where it is. You know, companies like ESPN have a 24/7 news cycle that was unheard of. You know, back when CNN headline news came out. You know, no one had any kind of 24/7 sports network channel like ESPN News has. So because of the sports media, and ESPN is just an example of that, because sports media has increased to a point now that it is never, you know, it is, you know, I use the word unprecedented, you know, it is unprecedented the level of sports coverage. You know, literally on my iPad, you know, I'm getting breaking alerts from ESPN anytime any kind of ESPN alert happens, breaking news, you know, I don't even have to go look it up. They come to me. You know, and that's kind of the way, you know, sports coverage is nowadays. Because of that, football gets a bad reputation because of the high amount of coverage that any injury, specifically concussions, receives. Okay, and so I feel like because of the NFL, mainly the NFL, and because of all the safety policies that the NFL is implementing, that concussions are more broadcast now. Okay, and that not just concussions, any kind of injury is broadcast at a level to where everyone is aware of it, and so it becomes taboo. Football kind of becomes this scary thing because these concussions, these players that suffer concussions, you know, they become household names. You know, so I do believe football is safe. And, you know, just like I was saying earlier in the interview, you know, the things that have been done from athletic trainers, team doctors, educating coaches, educating players, educating parents, you know, the equipment, you know, a football helmet now compared to a football helmet even when I first got into high school coaching, it's 5 years ago. Yeah. Well, my second stint in high school coaching started 5 years ago. A football helmet now compared to then, it's completely changed. Okay, it is so far advanced now, even for high school players, compared to what we used to wear, you know, outfit players with 5 years ago. So I do believe football is safe. I believe football is getting safer. I believe that football gets a bad rap from the media a lot of times because that's what people, you know, hear. You know, that's what people buy into. I mean, you know, just the other day, you know, on last Thursday, I got an email from our athletic trainer about new concussion policies. Okay, our athletic trainer is getting concussion policies from the state, and she's educating the coaches, and then the coaches are able to educate the players. Okay, so as far as, you know, coaching education and being proactive, you know, it's never been this safe. This is as safe as it's ever been.
Do you think the NFL could look more into this subject? Or?
I think the NFL has. I think the NFL is doing its very best to maintain, if not better, the safety of its players. This is going to sound really harsh, but I do think that the NFL is killing the game. I think if the NFL continues at this rate, I do, you know, if the NFL continues to mark up safety and hype safety and increase safety almost to a fault at times, if they continue on the path that they are on, you know, I think in 20 years we won't even be able to recognize it. I mean, there's going to be, you know, it's going to be the Baltimore Ravens versus the New England Patriots, and there's going to be flag football or two-hand touch, you know, because we're too afraid of touching other players, you know. So I do think that the NFL has been very proactive, and I do think the NFL has the top researchers on it. But I think it's almost like they're being too reactive to some of the negative attention they've gotten, and I think that you know, I think they're really, at some point, if they haven't already, at some point soon, they're going to begin causing a hindrance to the game. I mean, they've considered outlawing kickoffs you can't even have a kickoff for a game, or a kickoff after a touchdown, or a kickoff after an extra point. If the NFL has its way in the next few years, not anytime immediate, but the way it's going. Okay, if you take off kickoffs, okay, what's next? You're going to take out defenses. You're going to take out shoulder pads. You're going to take out helmets. You're going to take out tackling of any sort. No more tackling below the waist. Then it's going to be no more tackling. Then it's going to be no more two-hand touching. Then there's going to be a bunch of flag football players out there, and we're not going to recognize the sport that has become so popular because the way we know it, because the way we understand it now.
Do you think younger kids should be prohibited from playing football?
No, absolutely not. First of all, a lot of times you see those injuries, and a lot of those studies are done at such a level. 1%, I think, is the percentage off the top of my head. 1% of all college football players go into play in the NFL. If you're good enough to play in the NFL, you're playing at an elite caliber level. Okay, at that level, I could see that there could be danger because you have the very best tacklers in the world tackling at full speed and at their speed and their athleticism other players, and I could see how that could be dangerous. I mean, if you look at a lot of tackles in the NFL, some of them look like car accidents. I mean, really. But have you ever been to like a Pee-wee football game or like a little Mighty Mites football game? You cannot tell me you cannot convince me that those kids are tackling each other in such a way that there are these great and serious injuries. Do little kids get injured playing football? Yes. But little kids get injured playing baseball. Little kids get injured playing touch football in the backyard. Little kids get injured, climbing in trees. I mean, what are we going to do? I mean, where do you, if you prohibit football in youth football programs, where do you draw the line? If you prohibit football in youth football programs, you might as well start prohibiting everything that youth kids do. And also, by doing that, you are no longer educating young kids about football. I would love for my son to play football because he's going to learn fundamentals. He's going to learn how to tackle. He's going to learn everything he needs to know about the key safety fundamentals about the game at an early age. I would much rather a kid learn about the safe way, the right way to play football at the age of 5 than 15, than 18. Because the brain, developmentally, at 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, or older, is not the same developmentally as a 5-year-old's. Okay, if you're going to learn how to play football the right way, the safe way to play football, and yes, there is a safe way to play football, the earlier the better to educate those kids.
Well, thank you.
Is that it?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. Will Blakely, getting it done. This has been nice.